All right, let's jump right into a huge question on everyone's mind with GenAI. When it messes up, who's to blame? Seriously, who's responsible? This isn't just some abstract legal puzzle, it's a massive roadblock for any business out there trying to actually use this tech.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine an AI gives out, terrible financial advice that costs someone a ton of money. Or maybe it spits out content that totally rips off someone's copyright. Who gets the angry phone call? Who's on the hook? Is it the big company that built the original model, the developer who turned it into an app, or is it you, the person who just typed in the prompt?
And here's why this gets so messy. GenAI isn't like buying a toaster, right? If the toaster breaks, you know who to call. No, this is more like a whole supply chain, a full-on tech stack with tons of different players involved. And that complexity, it creates what some people are calling a responsibility gap. It's this murky gray area where it's super easy for everyone to just point fingers and say, not my fault. So, to cut through all that confusion, here's our game plan. We're going to start by really nailing down this accountability problem. Then, we'll look at a potential solution, something called a shared responsibility model. We'll see how it actually works in the wild, cover what to do when things inevitably go wrong, and wrap up with how you can bring all this back home to your own organization. All right, first up, let's really dig into the heart of the problem, this responsibility gap. Think about it. You've got the people who build the models, the folks who deploy the apps, the cloud providers hosting everything. With so many hands in the pot, passing the buck is just easy. And that ambiguity, that lack of clarity, it's a really big deal. It completely erodes the trust we need for this whole thing to work, the trust for businesses to actually invest in AI and for all of us to feel safe using it. Okay, so how in the world do we fix this mess? Well, the good news is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. The answer, it turns out, can be found in a place that's already figured out how to handle this kind of complex, multi-layered problem. Let's talk about cloud security for a second. It's a perfect parallel. With the cloud, the provider, say Amazon or Google, is responsible for the security of the cloud. But you, the customer, are responsible for security in the cloud. See that clear line? We can use that exact same logic for GenAI. And the core principle is simple, but it's everything. Accountability follows control. If you control a part of the chain, you're responsible for it. Simple as that. Okay, so that's the big idea. Accountability follows control. But what does that actually look like in the real world? Well, it all depends on what kind of AI model you're dealing with. Let's take a closed-source model, from one of the big tech giants. They have all the control, so the responsibility for the basic safety and performance of that model, that's on them. But if you're using an open-source model, the tables turn. Now the control, and by extension the responsibility, shifts to you, the application deployer. It's on you to make sure that model is legit, that you got it from a reputable source, and that it hasn't been messed with.
But look, let's be real for a second. No system is ever going to be perfect, right? Even with the clearest lens of responsibility, stuff is still going to go wrong. And that's exactly why we also need to talk about safety nets, what happens after an issue pops up.
And this is already starting to happen, which is great to see. You've got the big players, Adobe, Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, they're starting to step up. They're offering something called indemnity, which is basically a financial safety net. They're saying, hey, if you use our AI and get sued for something like copyright infringement, we've got your back. This is an absolutely huge step forward for building trust.
And it's not just the companies either. The law is trying to catch up. Take the EU's proposed AI liability directive. Its whole goal is to make it simpler for an ordinary person to prove they were harmed by an AI. It's all about giving people a clear path to get things sorted if something goes wrong.
Okay, so we've got the big picture principle. Accountability follows control, and we've got these external safety nets from companies and governments. But now for the part that really matters to you. How do you actually implement this stuff inside your own organization?
First things first, you need someone to own it. A really smart way to do this is to designate what's called a GenAI steward. Now, this doesn't have to be some brand new hire. It can totally be someone you already have, like an operations director. Their job is simple. They're the go-to person for all things GenAI governance, making sure everyone's following the rules.
And you can wrap this all up in a super simple but really powerful 3-step plan. Step 1, appoint your GenAI steward. Got it? Step 2, start classifying how you're using GenAI based on risk. I mean, drafting an internal email is low risk, right? But generating legal advice for a client? That's a whole different ballgame. And that brings us to step 3. For anything you label as high risk, you absolutely must have a human sign-off. It's a simple check, but it's an incredibly effective one.
Because at the end of the day, having a clear plan for accountability, it isn't just about dodging trouble or managing risk. It's about building trust. Trust with your customers, with your employees, with everyone. So the question I want to leave you with is, where does your organization fit in this chain of accountability? Really think about it.